online. So hello everyone, and welcome to the second session of Liquid Gas Europe webinar series, LPG Forward. Today we're going to talk about consumer perspective with speakers from all around the world. Last week we talked about the energy in the era of disruption, and today, together with Amanda, Ricardo, and Cedric, we're going to learn and explore more how the LPG industry is adapting new business models, how we're going to introduce new technologies and develop products that are more sustainable, just to stay more attractive, more relevant, and user-friendly. So in the next hour, we're going to learn more about services and solutions offered by Flowgas Britain, Ultragas, and Sensei Technologies. So these are going to range from consumer products to B2B technologies, which ultimately make it more convenient for LPG users to be more efficient and to use as much energy as they need. So before we move on to the presentations, I am going to introduce our speakers. So first is Amanda Murray, who works for Flowgas Britain, and she's Corporate Affairs and Innovation Marketing Manager. So in her role, she's responsible for influencing the government to profit Flowgas Britain, but also the industry. She's dealing with sustainability marketing and communications, and she leads innovative projects. Then we have a guest and speaker from the other side of the world, from Brazil, so Ricardo Colpo. He's the new business development director at Ultragas. And Ultragas, for those of you from Europe who are not that very familiar, is a leader and a pioneer of the Brazilian LPG industry. So thank you very much for joining. I know that it's very early in Brazil still. And last but not least, we have with us Cedric Morel from Sensei Technologies, Managing Director. And many of you probably know Sensei Technologies as it's a company that has been member of Liquid Gas Europe and an exhibitor for the last 10 years. And they are a front runner of the digitalization with Internet of Things solutions for oil and gas companies to make their work more efficient. So before we start with the presentations, just one housekeeping rule, which is very simple. Please do ask questions. So after each presentations, we're going to take a couple of questions. Then we have a little surprise, and we're going to move on to the Q&A. Okay, Amanda, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Margosha. Start the slides. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'm going to be speaking about our carbon offsetting initiative that we launched at Flowgas Britain last year to our domestic customers. And so Flowgas Britain, we're one of the leading LPG and LNG suppliers in the UK for off-grid. Just to set the scene then in terms of legislation within the UK, so the UK government set a net zero target by 2050 into law last year. And at high level, that means we're going to reduce our emissions as much as possible, but then any remaining emissions will be absorbing from the atmosphere from technologies such as carbon capture and storage. But essentially, decarbonisation will be required across all sectors. So when you think of LPG industry in the UK, we really position LPG as a transitional fuel in that it can provide significant carbon savings today and air quality improvements compared to higher carbon fuels such as oil and coal. But then it also has a long-term pathway to decarbonisation through bio-LPG. But in the meantime, or the interim period, we see initiatives such as carbon offsetting really helping to bridge this gap. Carbon offsetting, it also really aligns well with consumer trends in the UK. So consumer eco-awareness trend is definitely accelerated in the last few years. And this message is spreading to a wider audience. And part of that is due to Greta Thunberg and also due to the Extinction Rebellion protests in London. But I believe that consumers really care about their individual impact on the environment now. And that's shown through their changing habits. There's more investment in electric and hybrid vehicles as opposed to kind of dirtier fuels like diesel. Recycling is more common practice, and individuals also care about reducing their plastic and waste. Now, if you can kind of see that graph there, it's a bit small, but it's from a survey done in the UK, a public survey, and they asked the question, which do you think are the most important issues facing the country at this time? And that line shows the percentage that said the environment. So it's kind of gone, it's been steady over the last few years, but then from kind of 2018 and that spike in 2019 was about the Extinction Rebellion movement. And so that's really put climate at the forefront of the agenda. So what is carbon offsetting? So it's a way of counteracting the carbon emissions produced by gas consumption by investing in projects around the world that will reduce or capture equivalent CO2. The result being that there's no net increase in global emissions. So how ours works then is we encourage our customers to reduce their emissions as much as possible. And then we'll calculate however many unavoidable emissions there are still left to offset. We then purchase carbon credits on their behalf. So 1 tonne of LPG produces about 3 tonnes of CO2. So that would equal 3 carbon credits. These carbon credits are then used to invest in sustainable projects around the world. And I'll go into those projects just a little bit on the next slide, but they all either reduce or capture equivalent CO2 emissions that would otherwise have been released. So some examples of our projects then. We have a renewable energy project in India using wind power to generate electricity where they previously used coal. So that's a good carbon saving there. Another renewable energy project in China, there's 95 small-scale hydropower plants, so helping investment in that. And that's created clean energy for 500,000 homes in rural China. Another project replacing wood and charcoal cook stoves with LPG cook stoves. So that's cleaner in terms of carbon savings, but also air quality benefits. And it has the additional benefits of reducing the amount of wood that's chopped down. And then another project in Zimbabwe, which is a deforestation and wildlife protection project. And that one in particular has saved 1.7 million tonnes of CO2e each year. So these projects are having quite big impacts. Just to summarise then the value that carbon offsetting can add, it's very much aligned with government goals and initiatives, particularly in the UK, as we look to move towards net zero. It also works towards addressing consumers' increasing concern about their individual impact on the environment, and people are looking to reduce their carbon footprint. And then finally, it has a global impact. So climate change, it's not just one country's issue or one area issue, it's a global issue. And so carbon offsetting really is a way of reducing emissions globally. So I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
So I see that our audience is still a little bit shy. We don't have any questions, but actually I have a question. So how do you see this project moving on? How do you see the development?
Well, it's a project that I'm talking in domestic terms, but we also have a business offering as well. So we'll look to continue it in both domestic and business sectors. But as I kind of mentioned, bio-LPG is the long-term decarbonisation goal for off-grid. And so we really see projects like carbon offsetting and then further innovation projects in the meantime is where we'll be looking to before we reach that final decarbonisation.
Okay, thanks. There is a question from the audience. So asking why you're not using any European projects for carbon offsetting.
So yeah, the projects that we're investing in are in not in Europe and the UK at the moment. But I guess if you take the UK, for example, we've already made some significant steps in our journey to net zero. So one good example is we've increased the amount of renewables that are producing electricity. So we're not using as much coal anymore. So carbon offsetting in these other countries allows them to make some of the similar savings that haven't been made yet. So you end up with greater global savings for less.
Okay, great. Okay, so maybe we're going to move on to the next presentation from Ricardo. Your mic.
Hello?
Okay, now we're back and Ricardo, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, I will present some examples of what Ultragaz has been doing here in Brazil. Now, the consumer's behavior is changing. Everything now is digital. The consumer is obsessed with research, and shopping experience is strongly influenced by the speed of delivery. And this is an important point to understand and to develop solutions for this. And Brazil is the fourth country in the internet users in the world. We are very, very connected, and the LPG industry can use the full potential of this connection. And how the LPG industry can collaborate with this transformation. I have examples to show you. And in the residential segment, the residential side, we can show an example that we developed talking with the consumers, understanding the consumer's journey and the pain points of the customers. And we have developed new channels for sell LPG and new channels for attend the consumers. For example, WhatsApp and the new app for gas sale and digital partnerships in different marketplaces in Brazil. And in the side of the retail network, we provide service app with some solutions and some equipment and services for the retail network also. And the condominium solutions for all clients, residential clients in Brazil. Here we have a good example that we've launched during the pandemic. The new challenges, the new situation during the pandemic led Ultragaz to develop and launch a new app. This new app has developed in 15 days. It was a great job, a great work. We work in squads. We work in the agile methodology and launched this new app to allows the customer to schedule delivery on any available date. It was very important to promote safety for customers. For the customers wasn't necessary to stay in long lines to buy the cylinder and keeping at the home. And Ultragaz delivery the cylinders to the customers. And of course, it assists the dealer in planning sales and the customer satisfaction by ensuring delivering on the agreed date. We have here some numbers so far. We have sold around 50,000 cylinders until now. Another good example is this online resale portal. This online resale portal, it's a relationship channel between Ultragaz and its dealer network, a self-service portal, mobile and web, where the resellers have access to features such as scheduling orders, purchasing equipment, and content to develop media campaigns with Ultragaz standards. It's very useful for the retail network here in Brazil. Moving to the bulk segment in Brazil, it's a big and important segment also in Brazil. We have at Ultragaz a specific area for developing new technologies, new equipments, new solutions for the customers, for the clients. And all these products and services are customer oriented. We have this new area, and this is some examples of products and equipments that Ultragaz have launched in the market. For example, automatic cleansing, laundries, a solution for coffee roasting, a solution for organic waste recycler, and in the next slides, I will show in more details these solutions. The first one, laundries, is an equipment in industrial laundries, an economical and automated solution for industrial laundries with digital control of temperature and humidity, increasing process productivity and reducing costs. It reduces around 20% of energy consumption. It's very good for the customer and very good for the environment also. The next solution is this equipment for organic waste recycler for industrial kitchens and offer our customers a sustainable way to reduce costs and correctly dispose of organic waste. It's another good example of sustainable product and solution that we are selling in Brazil. And the last one is the automatic cleaning steam, a solution for cars composed of a machine that allows a complete cleaning of cars and provide a reduction of water consumption. It's very important that the reduction consumption of water is up to 90%. It's a huge number and a very good sustainable example to show you. And we are, like I said, we are in a journey. It's a great challenge for the entire company, the transition from the old to the new model. We are working more in multidisciplinary projects, new working models, using acceleration, incubation startups, prototyping and MVP in the projects. And we are with digital marketing and looking for technologies from Industry 4.0 to develop our projects. This is a good example that we have launched at Ultragaz, a development laboratory we call Blue Room. This laboratory promotes an agile culture, open innovation, and a connection with different ecosystems of startups. One of them is the 100 Open Startups, the very important ecosystem of startups in the world. And in the last year, Ultragaz reached the 8th position in the ranking of the most engaged company in this ecosystem. It was very important for us, this connection to bring technologies, to bring knowledge for the house. And in the last year in São Paulo, we had a mega startup weekend at Ultragaz with more than 400 participants and 15 winners. A good opportunity to connect our staff, our team, with new startups and new entrepreneurs here in Brazil. And to conclude my presentation, I would like to say that we are in an ongoing process. We are in a point of no return, and it also generates greater talent attraction, greater inclusion, and diversity at Ultragaz. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ricardo. That was very interesting. Before I ask a question, I would encourage our attendees to use the chat box and a question on innovation, because it's just very impressive how many projects you have. But do you think about the innovation as a cost or as an investment?
Of course, in an investment. And like I said, I think the consumers are now more digital. They need different solutions, different process, and they want cost reduction, they want speed in delivery, and they want more convenience. And we need to digitalize, we need to innovate to help customers to get these results.
Great. Okay, I see more questions coming, but maybe let's take them to Q&A sessions because they don't necessarily talk about the presentation. So Cedric, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to present our solutions in terms of digitalization and what this can bring to the LPG industry. So yes, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary, during which we've innovated constantly to today be one of the leaders in remote tank monitoring. We were just founded in the last century, one of the forerunner in IoT developers, especially, and we concentrated during that 20-year period really for the oil and gas and lubricants and also chemicals. We've got a headquarters in Switzerland with about today 100,000 tanks monitored on all the continents. What we do, we monitor the tank levels to help our customers be more efficient, bring better satisfaction to their customers. We do this on a whole range of tanks, LPG tank, petrol station, lubricants, heating oil, kerosene, aviation fuel, also LPG cylinders, with two types of technology or two types of platform. One is Netris on the GSM world, and one is Nivo using those new low power wide area network, which are LoRa and Sigfox. All this data taken from the fields in harsh environment, which are explosive, as you know, but also can be very cold, the north of Norway, it can easily be down to -40, to the Middle East. And all this data is then gathered and come to a cloud solution from where it's exported to the ERP systems of our customers using various APIs or export. So the whole process has to be digitalized. So I've got a question for you. How do you drive your business today? Like the guy on the left without IoT, or the guy on the right with IoT, with indicators, with warning, like on modern cars nowadays? And we're there to bring you from the left to the right, allowing you to see this curve coming ahead that you wouldn't be able to see on the left. And also to present the customer's request, the request of your customers, what we hear from our customers. The first point is really lower cost. They want the cheap energy, and that's the main criteria of customers when they choose an energy. And this is where IoT can help you by improving your efficiency, allows you to be able to offer better pricing or lower margin for your customers and better margin for you. The whole point of our solution is not just to install it, but also to change the processes internally to get those benefits. We've had many customers in the past that just made the investment and haven't changed the way they work. So it has to be a complete change, and we're there also to help you based on the 20 years experience we had with many different customers around the world. Then convenience. They want things to be planned in advance. They want to know ahead of time where their delivery is going to come there. They want to be sure that they're going to get what they need in time to be able to concentrate on their core business or whatever production they're doing without having to be worried that their tank is going to run dry. And that brings me to the last point, which is the reliability, where IoT can bring you the data and the processes to ensure that there's no dry run for your customers. So all those benefits are simply installed with the solution we proposed, and the change of processes that has to be put in place within the company to make sure that the process are fully digitalized and the customers then get the benefits they expect. And that's achieved with a smart supply chain, first by having a device on the tank that will transmit the information that you need at the time you need, frequency you need, bringing the complete customer satisfaction. Using this data, you're able to drop larger size at a time, which also then allow you to plan your route more efficiently, and all of that leading to lower logistic cost and making our solution actually profitable. We've been in this business with customers that are still working with us from the beginning, and the reason is that because they save money with it. It's not a cost, it's really savings once the processes have been changed and the data has been exploited properly and fully to the full extent. So thank you for your attention, and the view you have on this slide is actually the view I have today from my office. It's not a picture from today, but today is pretty much the same view. I just show it up to you after. Thank you.
Thank you, Cedric. Yes, we have a question from the audience. Seeing that you're a global company, do you see the differences in demand for solutions for LPG industry in different regions?
We have a very strong customer in the Nordic countries. This is really a first place where the costs are high and the distance are long. So it makes our systems very easily paid back. By saving one delivery, pretty much you pay for the whole system. We see a bit less, let's say, in Asia and Africa, where there is less, let's say, bulk tank nowadays, but this is picking up. Most of the biggest projects we're getting later are from these regions with very strong demand to catch up on digitalization. Europe is quite advanced with a lot of customers that already started with a solution many years ago, but they are today implementing that on all their tank. Before they used to place that on only other big customers, and today with the cost reduction they have and the benefits they get, they're really starting to deploy that on 100% of their tanks.
Great. And here's a question also about the future. So seeing that you now work a lot with oil and gas companies, are you preparing yourself for those companies moving away from fossil fuels?
We have some projects also today in water business, where we monitor valves to manage the water network more efficiently. So it's the same benefits, it's just different product. We will be able to monitor hydrogen as well as other fuel that could be used in the future, as well as bio-LPG. I mean, the principles are the same. And at the end, we have a very easy to install solution that can monitor anything. So we have a lot of other projects coming up to monitor different type of sensors. For example, maybe temperature, to monitor the temperature of a cold room or a lab that can't sustain a higher temperature. So there's definitely lots of projects coming up as well, and everybody wants the data, and we are the ones to get it into the cloud.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you for the presentations. Now we're going to break for the poll. So that's the surprise that I announced at the very beginning. So many of you who registered might remember that we were also asking this question before. So we're going to launch a question. What, in your opinion, is going to transform the LPG industry in the coming years? So now you can answer the question, and I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to answer it. And we're going to actually compare the results with what we received before the webinar, before the session. So, so we see the results to the right. Almost half of our attendees think that the industry is going to be transformed by the new legislation. And second most popular answer was that it's going to be the industry innovation. And also before the webinar, many of our registrants said that it's going to be the industry innovation. Do you have any comments on that? Well, Ricardo, we know your stance on this, but maybe Amanda.
Well, they're definitely all interconnected. I think they all play a role. I would say that industry innovation as well is probably what will transform the industry. But this innovation, it of course has to be aligned with any new legislation. For example, in the UK, it would have to be aligned with net zero targets and what the government's trying to do. And in terms of consumer needs, those will definitely direct the innovation, but ultimately it'll be up to the industry to transform it.
Cedric?
I'm a strong believer in the innovation, so I'll have to fight for my church.
Okay, so we're still receiving questions from the audience, and this one was intended for Flowgas, but I guess we can all try to answer this question about reinventing our business models and reinventing the products for consumers when we see growing trends for sustainability or bio-LPG. How do we see the industry transforming? Or yes, Amanda.
Is that for me as well?
Yes, let's do it this way. Yeah.
Well, we've had probably a growing trend of people asking about renewable offerings. And that's probably been accelerated by the government commitments, but also the changes in consumer behaviour that I mentioned in terms of Greta Thunberg and the Extinction Rebellion movement and it being high on the agenda. So we'll definitely be looking to continue to innovate in line with those trends. There's also an increased appetite, I think, to interact digitally. And that's partly due to, COVID-19 pandemic. But I think once consumers start interacting digitally, ordering online and find that that's more convenient, it probably won't, it's unlikely to go back. So as an industry, we'll need to keep up with those kinds of trends.
And that links to a question for Ricardo that we received about the amount of digital consumers that you have. What's the percentage versus the traditional means?
Oh, it's difficult. It's difficult. But like I said, we are in the middle of this journey, and we now have more traditional ones, but we are in a way to increase the digital projects and digital clients. But I think today more traditional, and in the next years we are going more digital than today. But it's difficult to have a percentage, but the main idea is this. We are in the journey and we are increasing every year our working model. We have today, a good example is this, we have today different people, different professionals in our company, like user experience, data science. We have different professionals to increase and fastly change the mindset, the culture, and the solutions of our company.
Yes, so talking about the journey, something that you mentioned in your presentation is the coronavirus crisis. Do you want to explain a little bit more how it affected the consumer trends? And do you think that any development that happened in the last few months is going to stay with us?
Yes, in Brazil, the context in Brazil, the residential demand is increasing. Of course, people stay at home and they are cooking more, and the industrial consumption is decreasing in this moment. And the consumers are looking for convenience. They want the product at home. They want, of course, low cost, and they want a company that have a purpose. I think a purpose, a company engaged with the social issues, engaged with the environment, and I can mention that we have to communicate and act in the same way every day more and more. And I think we are doing this very well today. And we have launched the new app. This new app is just to help population stay at home and avoid the contamination during the crisis. And we are with a frequent communication, and I think a frequent and good and quality communication with all stakeholders, mainly the employees and the retail network and the consumers. A good communication, talking about the problem and solving problems of them.
Amanda, I see you nodding. Do you have any comments on the current situation and how what we learn now is going to stay with us for the future?
Yeah, I agree. I think, the home heating has stayed the same, more increased with people being more at home. But I was going to mention, with businesses moving to allowing more people to work from home. I think in the past, businesses weren't kind of sure how that would work, but now they can see that people can work efficiently from home. And so I think it'll be interesting to see then how that affects the transport industry and autogas, because people won't have to commute as much to get to work if they're working from home more. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how that has any lasting effects on transport in the future.
Yeah, okay. And Cedric, how has it been for you with the coronavirus crisis? You're working with more B2B solutions. So do you think that any learnings from this time are going to stay with us?
I think so, because it's been crazy for us. April and May were the biggest months in terms of order intake for many months. So it's really, I think it has struck many of our customers that digitalization is the way to go and that we have the solution for them. So yes, that was more a problem of being able to deliver those customers, because we have suppliers that didn't work because the factory had to shut down due to governmental reasons. So that was more a logistic issue for us. But in terms of demands for a solution, that has, I'd say, exploded, and I don't see this coming back. It's a bit, our solution a bit like a smartphone, or even at the time we gave the example of just mobile phone. If you have it, you work 20 years without it, and it's fine. But the day you start with this kind of tool, you can't go back. So once the whole logistic is planned on getting reliable data, it's really hard to avoid. So I think this is definitely the way to go to be more efficient and improve the whole processes in logistic. But for us, yes, I think it's been 20 years of preaching for this solution, and I'd say thanks COVID-19 for the help.
Okay, that's a good development, and I think it links nicely with a question that we have for Ricardo. Ricardo, do you think that we can offer 100% online services and the online offer?
I think 100% is too much, and I think we always have to maintain the contact, the face-to-face contact. But of course, we are working to be an omni-channel company. We have to offer different channels from the customers, and all these channels must be connected. The important is to offer the only one experience, only one good experience for the customers, and the customers can access different channels and have the same experience in all these channels. Face-to-face channel, face-to-face, in the WhatsApp, in the new app, in all channels, the experience must be the same one and must be very good and must be with a good speed and quality.
Okay, so I still encourage the attendees to ask the questions. But in the meantime, I was wondering, because obviously the last few months we've been all concerned with the COVID crisis and try to manage the situation. But if you go back to the beginning of the year, last year as well, what were the questions that you were asked the most by the clients? So what were the trends that you were spotting the most when it comes to convenience, cost reduction, sustainability? Anything pops up in mind, Amanda?
I think even before COVID-19, people are looking for more digitalization. And as Ricardo just kind of mentioned, service. They expect the service to be the best and in line with some of the best service providers in the world, like Amazon and next day delivery, and being informed every step of the way. And that will be a challenge for the LPG industry. We might not have next day deliveries, but we can use technology definitely to help to inform the customer more and more, I think, over time.
Cedric, was that something that you also got the same signals from the industry?
Yes, definitely. I think this is, and I think even if the delivery doesn't have to be the next day, as long as you've got the data to show that actually you don't need it the next day, that the customers has plenty of fuel to last another 3, 4, 5 days. With this data, then it doesn't have to be emergency deliveries all the time. So it can really be planned and carefully organized.
And how was it for you, Ricardo, before?
Yes, I think the most they want more convenience in general. I can resume in convenience. They want a good service and good delivery, and I think convenience is a good word that the clients want more.
Yes. So here about the services and IoT solutions. We have a question on what sort of skills that requires and how do you make sure to attract the right kind of profile. And I guess that's for Ricardo, that you mentioned that in your presentation about attracting young people to the business.
Yeah, I think this new model that we are working today, this agile methodology, and we are working more in squads, in different groups of people, multidisciplinary projects, and it attracts young people. It's very good for the industry because the LPG industry should attract more young people. And we are doing this, and these people are looking for the company more and more. It's very, very interesting. They have different and new skills that we want. For example, data scientists, and they want to work with a company with a purpose, a company that are changing itself, a company that are developing new ways to help the consumers. I think this, of course, attract young people and diversity people. I think it is a good way to renovate the LPG industry.
And could you explain the agile methodology?
Yes, we are working in different in some projects. We use this methodology with a multidisciplinary groups working with a target, and the project start from the need of the consumers. Of course, in general, it starts with the pain point of the consumers, and we have different stages to test, to prototype, and to have MVPs before launching the market. But it happens very fast, more fast than the traditional model, and it involves different skills, different people from different areas. It's a very interesting way to work, but of course, we are always work in the agile way, in the traditional way. Some projects we have to keep in the traditional way, but we are working more and more with this model, and we are very happy with the results. A good example was the new app that I show you. The new app, we work with this project for 15 days. In 15 days, we developed and launched a new app in the market.
That's pretty impressive, just the 2 weeks, and it shows how fast the industry can answer to needs and to adapt. But going back to innovation projects, Amanda, I know that you're leading on some of them. And can you maybe explain how the consumer perspective is taken into account when working on new products and new solutions?
Yeah, I think consumers, they always need to be kind of at the heart of any innovation and improvement. Because we can all think of businesses that have gone obsolete when they haven't kept the consumer in mind, like Blockbuster and Netflix is come in and really helped with consumer needs. So I think just in general, if you're not listening to consumer needs in a rapidly changing environment, and there's so much going on right now, especially in the UK with legislation around environment, and so you need to update business practices to meet those consumer needs, and if you don't keep up with that, you won't survive. So I think, yeah, like I said, the consumer needs to be at the forefront of anything innovative.
And that was a very good point on keeping up with the consumers. Is there a way to do it in an efficient way, or how as a company make sure that you're listening to the consumer?
I think, yeah, just, you can do that in quite a few different ways. Speaking to customers, getting, in terms of marketing, getting feedback from your customers, listening on social media would also be something where you can really understand customers' needs. And so I think through all those kinds of different channels, you can start to paint a real picture of what the customer wants.
And Cedric, for a global company like yours, probably it's more challenging to listen to consumer needs and keep track of trends. Or how do you do that then?
Actually, it's not that hard because we don't have that many customers. We are exclusively on B2B, so we work only with large customers, like large oil and gas companies. So it's very easy to get a direct contact. And during even the COVID-19, it was easy to reach our customers because they were home and easily and not in meetings mostly. So it was also a good period to connect with them more on a personal level, even if we couldn't travel. So that's the way we listen from their need and the issues and problems they have and what they want to solve with our solution. But we also there to innovate and present them new solution to do it better, cheaper, faster. That's what has been really driven a whole innovation over the years, and that's what we'll keep on doing because until there's all the tank have a device like ours, and then you can have something completely digitalized.
Okay. And Ricardo, how is it for you? Because for so many channels that you use, obviously one could think that it's easier to listen to the customer's needs, but at the same time, isn't it more burdensome if you have so many ways to contact with the company? So how do you make sure that you listen, but you're not overloaded with the information?
Yeah, so you have to create a governance of this, and the new technologies help us to do this. For example, we have for these different channels, we have something like hubs to connect all the information to make sure that all information are used to help and to solve the problems of the customers. But we have different service channels that we receive more information from the clients, and we frequently provide and create different forums, different workshops and conversations with the customers to understand the pains, the problems that they are facing in this moment or in the future, and we bring this information to home, bring this information to Ultragaz, and create different groups, working groups to try to solve this problem. And of course, after this, we always try to do a feedback for the customers, and we in this way we try to understand and to try to solve the problems of the customers. But of course, like I said, we are learning and working in this model every day, and maybe we can commit and we can make mistakes in this journey, but this is part of the process. We have to make mistakes, and we have to understand and learn from the mistakes.
Yes, This is very true. But then before we wrap up, talking more about sustainability and how we communicate on sustainability, do you see there is a growing role for solutions like bio-LPG for talking more about energy efficiency, talking more about emission reductions? Do you see this as a trend among consumers? Amanda, maybe that's a question for you.
Yeah, I definitely do see it as a trend. I think when you look at businesses, they have some legislative targets now that they kind of have to meet. And so consumers, obviously, they don't have those targets, but they're becoming more and more informed about the direction that the government is going in. And I think that will only increase. And then they'll be looking to energy providers to provide those renewable offerings.
And how is it in Brazil? Do you see this growing trend in sustainability? Maybe it's more about energy efficiency and just using less, or?
In Brazil?
Yes.
In Brazil, I think we are in a different stage from Europe, a different stage. Of course, we are worried about the impacts of the environment, but we are working now more with efficiency, I think, and support the clients to help to help the environment. For example, the Ultra Cycle, the products that I show you, all these products have a sustainable appeal, and helps the environment to reduce the resource consumption, reduce cost, and reduce energy consumption. I think in Brazil we are working more with this kind of projects, but of course studying and looking for the future that are coming, because we have to be worried about this transition, energy transition, and looking for different ways, different technology, different products like bio-LPG, for example, to bring to Brazil and to help the country in this transition.
Cedric, do you also see this growing trend towards sustainability, towards bio-LPG, towards energy efficiency?
I see this, but as we don't sell this product, I have actually a question. Are actually the consumer ready to pay more because I expect today that this product is more expensive? So are LPG users ready to pay more for LPG if it's bio? That's a question I don't have the answer, but we have many customers that have had biodiesel for many years. We haven't had an analysis to see if this is the number of tanks we monitor with bio-based product is growing or not. That could be an interesting study to do on the data we have. But no, I don't really have the answer there.
Okay. And Amanda, maybe you have a question, like answer to that question on bio-LPG and the readiness of consumers to pay premium for renewable products.
I don't have the answer necessarily for bio-LPG, but I think if you look at other renewable products and other industries, so I was looking at an article the other day that said that in the UK, 45% of consumers were willing to pay more for sustainably sourced products. So whether that's in fashion or whatever industry it's in, and then you've seen like carbon offsetting in other industries like flights. People are willing to pay more for their flight if they know that it's offset. So these trends are definitely occurring in other industries.
Do you see it the same in the Brazilian market, Ricardo?
Like I said, I think we have a long path in Brazil to use the LPG, and we have to create demand, the LPG demand in Brazil. We have to do this, launching different projects like the equipment that I show, the bulk segment, and we have a long path to work in the LPG industry, and it starts until now think about new energies. And of course, we have a point to add. We always can use the LPG even in Europe, in different countries. I think we have to use the LPG like a backup from other energies. We can have equipment that uses natural gas or other energies, and the LPG like a backup to guarantee the consumption, to guarantee for the industry the service. But I think we have a long path for the LPG here in Brazil.
Okay, so I'll give a last chance to our audience to ask any questions that were burning for the last hour. But maybe as Cedric asked a question to other panelists, maybe Ricardo, Amanda, maybe you have questions to each other before we wrap up. Something that popped up in the presentations?
Maybe I have a question for Amanda. Amanda, how fast do you think this transition, this transformation in Europe for new energies will happen? How fast do you think in 10 years, 50, 5 years?
That's the ultimate question to answer, I think. I think, well, if you think about LPG industry in the UK, within the industry, there are already volumes of bio LPG within our industry. And so I think that will grow over time. And as an industry, we're looking to transition to 100% bio LPG by 2040. That's the ambition of the industry. So I think those kind of timeframes, but it's quite a difficult question to answer.
I can imagine.
Okay, so I guess we can wrap up with a last message to our audience. So let's start with Cedric. Any final thoughts, comments, conclusions?
Yes, I'll show you the view that we have from our office. So to give you the idea of to come and visit us, we'll be happy to help you on your digital journey. And if the view is not enough, then we'll make sure we'll take you some nice mountains or hot cheese meal, special from our place.
Thank you for the invitation. Ricardo, any final comments?
And I just thank you for this opportunity, and we invite you to visit Brazil and to know what we are doing here. And I think we have to try to keep and to maintain the LPG strong every day, day by day, in the world. I think, of course, looking for complementary energy and other resources, but we have a lot of work to do in the LPG industry as well, and we have to work together in this journey.
Amanda?
Yeah, just thank you again for the opportunity to present. It's really useful to kind of have the opportunity to, as you say, speak with other countries in the world and see what they're doing with LPG, and it'd be great to kind of move that forward on a global scale.
Yes, and I also like to thank our speakers and panelists showing different innovation and products that have at heart the consumer and making sure that we deliver in a convenient, cost-efficient manner. And I would like to wrap up with an invitation to our next session that is going to take place next week. So next Tuesday at 11 a.m. We're going to talk about LPG applications of today and tomorrow. So stay tuned. All the presentations and the video from this session is going to be available on our website. And we're going to send a link to that video together with a thank you email. So thank you all very much again for giving us a glimpse of what's happening around the world. And yes, and hope to see you soon. And if not soon, at least during the Congress next year. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.